Most people think they know everything about the Porsche 959. You've heard it was fast, expensive, and banned in America. But what you didn't know is that this car was so advanced, it had technology that wouldn't appear in other cars for another 20 years. In the next few minutes, you'll discover 20 weird facts about the 1986 Porsche 959 that even die-hard Porsche fans have never heard. And stick around for the end, because we've saved a surprise fact about this legendary supercar that will blow your mind. PSK all-wheel drive wizardry. The 959 didn't just have all-wheel drive, it had something Porsche called PSK, which stood for Porsche Steuerkupplung. This wasn't your typical four-wheel drive system that just split power 50-50. The PSK system was like having a computer brain that could think faster than any human driver. It actively varied the torque between the front and rear wheels with the default rear bias setup that made it feel like a proper Porsche should. But here's where it gets interesting. The system could send up to 80% of the power to the front wheels when it detected slip. Whether you were blasting through snow-covered mountain passes or launching from a standstill with all 450 horsepower unleashed, the PSK system was constantly adjusting, calculating, and redistributing power hundreds of times per second. The really wild part? This was all done with 1980s technology. No modern computers, no fancy sensors like we have today, just pure mechanical and hydraulic genius that worked so well, it became the blueprint for every Porsche all-wheel drive system that followed. First production car with TPMS long before tire pressure monitoring became mandatory on new cars, the 959 was already showing you exactly how much air was in each tire. This wasn't some aftermarket gauge stuck on the dashboard. Porsche built the world's first production car tire pressure monitoring system right into the 959. The system worked in conjunction with special Dunlop Denlock run-flat tires that were specifically designed for the car. Each wheel had sensors that could detect pressure changes as small as 0.1 bar, and the information was displayed on a dedicated panel in the cockpit. What made this even more impressive was that the sensors had to survive the incredible forces generated by a car capable of nearly 200 miles per hour. The system was so advanced that if you got a puncture, not only would it alert you immediately, but the Denlock tires could continue running for up to 50 miles at 50 miles per hour, giving you plenty of time to find a safe place to stop. This technology was so far ahead of its time that it took almost 2 decades before other manufacturers started offering similar systems as standard equipment. Hollow spoke magnesium wheels. The 959's wheels weren't just lightweight, they were engineering marvels that solved multiple problems at once. Made by Speedline, these magnesium wheels featured hollow spokes with internal cavities. This wasn't just for show or to save a few pounds. The hollow construction served a crucial purpose. It created space to house the tire pressure monitoring system's sensors and transmitters. Each wheel weighed just 17.6 pounds, which was incredibly light for a wheel that had to handle the stresses of a 200-mile-per-hour supercar. The magnesium alloy was specially treated to prevent corrosion, a common problem with magnesium wheels of that era. But here's the really clever part. The hollow spokes also acted as cooling ducts, helping to channel air to the massive brakes. This meant the wheels were actively contributing to the car's performance in 3 different ways: reducing unsprung weight for better handling, housing the TPMS technology, and cooling the brakes. The design was so successful that similar hollow spoke concepts are still used in high-performance wheels today. Hybrid-cooled racing heart. The 959's engine was a technological tour de force that combined the best of air cooling tradition with water cooling efficiency. While the cylinders remained air-cooled like a traditional 911, the 4-valve heads were water-cooled, technology derived directly from Porsche's 956 and 962 endurance racing cars. This wasn't a compromise. It was genius. The air-cooled cylinders maintained the classic Porsche engine sound and simplified construction, while the water-cooled heads allowed for tighter tolerances, better combustion chamber design, and more consistent temperatures under extreme conditions. The engine had displaced 2.85 liters but produced 450 horsepower, an astounding 158 horsepower per liter. The 4-valve per cylinder design meant this flat 6 had 24 valves total, each one precisely controlled by dual overhead camshafts. The water cooling system for the heads included its own radiator mounted in the front of the car, separate from the oil coolers. This hybrid approach allowed Porsche to push the boost pressure higher than would have been possible with a fully air-cooled design, while still maintaining the compact packaging and low center of gravity that made 911s handle so well. Sequential twin turbos. Forget everything you know about 1980s turbo lag, the 959 eliminated it. Porsche engineers developed a sequential twin turbo system that was nothing short of revolutionary. Instead of two turbos working simultaneously, they staged them. The first turbo was smaller and spooled up quickly, providing boost from as low as 2,000 RPM. Then, at around 4,000 RPM, the second, larger turbo would seamlessly join in, adding its boost to create a massive wave of power that continued all the way to the 6,500 RPM redline. The system used a complex arrangement of wastegates and bypass valves to manage the transition between single and twin turbo operation. The result was linear power delivery that felt more like a naturally aspirated engine with endless torque. Maximum boost pressure was 1 bar, about 14.5 psi, which doesn't sound like much by today's standards. But remember, this was the 1980s, and that 1 bar of boost was enough to rocket the 959 from 0 to 60 in 3.7 seconds. The sequential setup was so effective that many manufacturers copied the concept in the 1990s, though few executed it as well as Porsche did in the 959. 6-speed with a G gear. The 959's transmission was as special as everything else on the car. It featured a 6-speed manual gearbox, which was rare enough in 1986, but it also had something unique, a G gear. The G stood for Gelände, which is German for a terrain or off-road. This ultra-low first gear was specifically designed to help the car pass strict European drive-by noise regulations. By using the G gear for initial acceleration during noise testing, the engine speed stayed lower, reducing noise levels. But Porsche being Porsche, they made sure this gear served multiple purposes. The G gear was perfect for steep hill starts, crawling through traffic, or navigating treacherous terrain. Remember, this car was originally conceived with rally racing in mind. The regular 1st through 6th gears were perfectly spaced for high-performance driving, while the G gear sat off to the side of the normal H pattern, requiring a deliberate movement to engage. This meant you couldn't accidentally shift into it during spirited driving. The gearbox itself was a masterpiece of packaging, fitting into a magnesium case that was both incredibly strong and remarkably light. The shift action was precise and mechanical, with short throws that made quick shifts effortless. Active suspension, 3 heights. The 959's suspension system was like something from a science fiction movie. It featured computer-controlled damping that constantly adjusted based on driving conditions, speed, and driver inputs. But that was just the beginning. The system offered 3 different ride heights, 12, 15, and 18 centimeters. At normal speeds, the car sat at the middle setting. Push past 75 miles per hour, and it would automatically lower itself to the 12 centimeter setting, reducing drag and improving stability. Come to a stop, and you could manually raise it to 18 centimeters for clearing steep driveways or rough roads. The system used hydraulic actuators at each corner, fed by an engine-driven pump. Sensors throughout the car monitored everything from steering angle to brake pressure, feeding data to the suspension computer 50 times per second. The computer then adjusted each damper independently, providing the perfect balance between comfort and control. This wasn't just adaptive damping. This was a fully active system that could change the car's entire stance and behavior. The technology was so advanced that similar systems didn't become common on high-end sports cars until the early 2000s. If you thought that was impressive, wait until you see what's coming up. A body made from materials used in bulletproof vests, a Le Mans racing variant that shocked the establishment, and a production process so complex it nearly bankrupted the project. So let's continue. Aluminum, Kevlar, and Nomex body. The 959's body was a masterclass in advanced materials. While most supercars of the era were still using steel or fiberglass, Porsche went all in on exotic composites. The main body panels were aluminum, keeping weight down while providing excellent rigidity. But the really special stuff was hidden underneath. The floor pan was made from Kevlar, yes, the same material used in bulletproof vests. This aramid fiber composite was incredibly strong and light, providing protection from stone chips and road debris while weighing a fraction of what a steel floor would. The front and rear bumpers were made from polyurethane with an aluminum beam structure inside, designed to absorb impacts while maintaining their shape. But here's where it gets really interesting. The doors featured Nomex honeycomb cores. Nomex, another aramid fiber, was sandwiched between aluminum skins to create doors that were incredibly light yet strong enough to pass side impact tests. The entire body shell weighed just 440 pounds, which was remarkable for a car with all-wheel drive and such comprehensive safety equipment. Every panel was hand-fitted and adjusted to tolerances that were tighter than anything Porsche had attempted before. The paint process alone took 3 weeks per car, with multiple stages of primer, color, and clear coat to achieve a finish that would last decades. Built at Baur in Stuttgart. While you might assume the 959 was built at Porsche's Zuffenhausen factory, the truth is more interesting. Porsche partnered with Carrosserie Baur, a specialist coach builder located in Stuttgart, for final assembly. Baur had a long history with Porsche, having built various special models including Targa variants. But the 959 was their most complex project ever. The arrangement worked like this. Porsche would deliver partially assembled cars to Baur, where a team of specially trained technicians would complete the build. This wasn't a typical production line. Each car was essentially hand-built by a small team of craftsmen. The process was so labor-intensive that Baur could only complete about 1 car per week. Each technician had to undergo extensive training on the 959's complex systems, from the all-wheel drive to the active suspension. The quality control was extraordinary. Every single component was tested multiple times during assembly. The partnership with Baur allowed Porsche to build the 959 without disrupting their regular 911 production, while ensuring each car received the attention to detail it deserved. Many of the techniques developed during 959 production later influenced how Porsche would build other limited production models. Group B routes, Dakar Glory. The 959 wasn't originally conceived as a road car. It was designed to go racing in Group B rally. Porsche engineers started development in 1981 with the goal of creating the ultimate all-wheel drive rally weapon. The plan was to build the 200 road cars required for homologation, then dominate the World Rally Championship. But Group B's dangerous speeds led to its cancellation in 1986, right as the 959 was ready to compete. Instead of scrapping the project, Porsche pivoted to endurance rallying. 3 specially prepared 959s entered the 1986 Paris-Dakar Rally, one of the most grueling motorsport events on Earth. The results were stunning. René Metge won overall, Jackie Ickx finished second, and Roland Cousmol came 6th. This wasn't just a class win, these were outright victories against purpose-built rally raid machines. The Dakar 959s featured raised suspension, underbody protection, and simplified interiors, but the basic all-wheel drive system and engine remained largely stock. The victory proved that the 959 wasn't just a technological showcase, it was a genuine performance machine capable of conquering any terrain. The win also provided valuable marketing for the road car, demonstrating its durability and capability in the harshest conditions imaginable. 961 Le Mans Cousin. While the 959 was conquering the desert, Porsche created an even more extreme version for circuit racing, the 961. This wasn't just a 959 with racing numbers, it was a thorough re-engineering of the platform for endurance racing. The 961 featured a full tube frame chassis clothed in 959-shaped bodywork. The engine was bored out to 3.2 liters and produced 640 horsepower, nearly 200 more than the road car. But here's what made it special. Unlike every other Porsche race car of the era, the 961 retained all-wheel drive. At the 1986 24 Hours of Le Mans, the 961 stunned everyone by finishing 7th overall and winning the IMSA GTX class. This was remarkable because all-wheel drive systems typically add weight and complexity, 2 things you don't want in endurance racing, but the 961 proved that the advantages in traction and stability outweighed the penalties. The car could exit corners faster than its rear-wheel drive competitors and maintained better stability through Le Mans' high-speed sections. Only one 961 was ever built, making it one of the rarest Porsches ever created. Its success influenced Porsche's decision to develop all-wheel drive systems for future racing applications, fastest road car at launch. When the 959 hit the market in 1986, it didn't just raise the bar, it launched it into orbit. With a top speed of 317 kilometers per hour or 197 miles per hour, it claimed the title of world's fastest production car. This wasn't just a theoretical number achieved on a computer. Porsche proved it at their Aire-Lessian test track. To put this in perspective, the Ferrari F40, which wouldn't arrive until 1987, was only marginally faster. The Lamborghini Countach, considered the ultimate supercar of the era, topped out at 185 miles per hour. The 959 didn't just beat them, it embarrassed them. But speed wasn't the only impressive statistic. The 959 could accelerate from 0 to 100 miles per hour and back to 0 in just 13 seconds. A feat that demonstrated not just its acceleration, but its incredible braking capability. The aerodynamics played a huge role in achieving these speeds. With a drag coefficient of just 0.31, the 959 sliced through the air more efficiently than many modern cars. The active suspension's ability to lower the car at speed reduced frontal area and helped stability at these incredible velocities. Have you ever seen a 959 in person? They're even more impressive up close than in pictures. Let me know in the comments if you've spotted one of these legendary machines. Even faster 959S. As if the standard 959 wasn't fast enough, Porsche created an even more extreme version, the 959S, or Sport. This wasn't just a 959 with sport badges, it was a focused, lightweight rocket that took performance to another level. The S model shed about 220 pounds through the deletion of air conditioning, power windows, power seats, and most sound deadening. The interior was stripped down to basics with lightweight bucket seats replacing the comfortable leather thrones of the standard car. But the real magic was under the engine cover. Porsche turned up the boost pressure and recalibrated the engine management system, extracting an additional 50 horsepower for a total of 500. The suspension was stiffened and lowered, and the aerodynamics were tweaked for even less drag. The result? A top speed of approximately 339 kilometers per hour. That's 211 miles per hour. The 959S could hit 60 miles per hour in just 3.6 seconds, making it one of the quickest accelerating cars of the decade. Only 29 examples were built, and they were sold exclusively to Porsche's best customers who could prove they would actually use the car's capabilities. Today, these S models are the holy grail for Porsche collectors, commanding prices well into the seven figures. Driver-selectable AWD programs. The 959 put control in the driver's hands like no other supercar before it. A console-mounted dial allowed drivers to choose between different PSK all-wheel drive programs, each optimized for specific conditions. But this wasn't just a simple traction control switch. It was a complete recalibration of how the car delivered power. The programs included settings for dry pavement, wet conditions, snow, and even a special program for maximum acceleration. Each setting adjusted not just the torque split, but also how aggressively the system reacted to wheel slip and how it predicted traction needs. The truly revolutionary part was the display that showed real-time torque distribution. A series of LED lights indicated exactly how much power was going to each axle at any given moment. Drivers could watch as the system shifted power forward during hard acceleration, then sent it rearward during steady-state cruising. This level of driver information was unheard of in the 1980s. It turned every drive into an education about vehicle dynamics. The system was so sophisticated that it could detect differences in tire pressure or wear between axles and adjust accordingly. Many owners reported that playing with the different programs taught them more about car control than years of driving experience. Sold below cost new. Here's a fact that would make any accountant cry. Porsche lost money on every single 959 they sold. The sticker price was around $225,000 in 1986, equivalent to over $600,000 today. Sounds expensive, right? But internal Porsche documents revealed that each car cost approximately $450,000 to build. That means Porsche lost about $225,000 per car. Why would a company do this? The 959 was never about profit, it was about pushing boundaries and developing technology for future models. Every system on the car required massive research and development investment. The sequential turbo system alone reportedly cost $50 million to develop. The all-wheel drive system required creating entirely new production processes. Porsche viewed the 959 as a rolling laboratory that happened to be sold to customers. The technology developed for the car would trickle down to future 911s, making them better and more profitable. In that context, the 959 was actually a bargain. Customers were essentially buying a $500,000 car for less than half price. Today, with 959 selling for over $2 million, those original buyers made one of the best automotive investments ever. U.S. law change legend. The 959's impact on American automotive law is the stuff of legend. When the car was new, it couldn't be legally imported to the United States because it hadn't been crash tested to meet federal safety standards. Porsche refused to sacrifice the several cars required for testing, given the limited production run. This created a bizarre situation where America's wealthy enthusiasts could afford the world's most advanced supercar, but couldn't legally drive it on US roads. Some determined buyers found creative solutions. Microsoft founders Bill Gates and Paul Allen both imported 959s and then spent years fighting for the right to drive them. Their cars sat in customs warehouses while lawyers battled regulators. The saga became so well known that it helped inspire the 1999 show or display law. This legislation created an exemption allowing historically or technologically significant cars to be imported without meeting all federal standards, provided they're driven less than 2,500 miles per year. The 959 literally changed American law. Today, the cars that waited years in storage are perfectly legal and highly sought after. The whole episode demonstrated how a single car could be so important that it warranted changing federal regulations. It also showed the lengths enthusiasts would go to own their dream car. Real supercar usability. What made the 959 truly special wasn't just its performance, it was how civilized it was. This was a supercar you could genuinely use every day, in any weather, without compromise. The interior featured leather seats with electric adjustment and heating, automatic climate control that actually worked, and a premium sound system. The visibility was excellent for a supercar, with large windows and well-placed mirrors. The all-wheel drive system meant you could drive it confidently in rain or snow. The trunk, while not huge, could actually hold a couple of small suitcases. The engine, despite producing 450 horsepower, was docile in traffic. The sequential turbos meant you had usable power from idle, not the peaky, temperamental delivery typical of 1980s turbos. The ride quality, thanks to the adaptive suspension, was comfortable on rough roads when set to its softest setting. Even servicing was relatively straightforward, at least by supercar standards. The engine bay was well organized, and most routine maintenance could be performed without removing major components. Many owners put serious miles on their 959s, with some examples showing over 100,000 miles on the odometer. This combination of supercar performance and everyday usability became Porsche's template for future high-performance models. Tiny production, big impact. The numbers tell an incredible story. Porsche built just 292 customer 959s plus 29 sport models for a total of 321 cars. Then, in 1992 and 1993, they assembled 8 more cars from spare parts. That's it. 329 cars total, making the 959 rarer than many limited edition Ferraris. But the impact of those few cars was enormous. The technology developed for the 959 influenced every Porsche that followed. The PSK all-wheel drive system evolved into the systems used in the Carrera, 4, and Turbo models. The sequential turbo concept appeared in later 911s, and even in cars from other manufacturers. The tire pressure monitoring, now mandatory on all new cars, started here. The use of exotic materials like Kevlar and carbon fiber became standard practice in high-performance cars. The active suspension technology influenced not just Porsche, but the entire industry. For such a small production run, the 959 generated an outsized number of patents and innovations. Engineers who worked on the 959 project went on to lead development of future Porsche models, carrying the lessons learned forward. In the collector market, the 959's rarity and significance have made it one of the most valuable Porsches ever built. magnesium transaxle case. The 959's transmission wasn't just special because of its 6+1 gear arrangement, the case itself was a work of art. Cast from magnesium alloy, the transaxle case was a bespoke unit designed specifically for the 959. This wasn't a modified 911 gearbox. It was purpose-built to handle 500 Newton-meters of torque while managing the complex all-wheel drive system. The magnesium construction saved approximately 40 pounds compared to an aluminum case, which might not sound like much until you consider its location. Being mounted at the rear of the car, every pound saved improved weight distribution and reduced the polar moment of inertia. The case had to be incredibly precise, with tolerances measured in thousandths of an inch to ensure proper gear mesh and bearing alignment. The casting process was so complex that Porsche had to develop new techniques to achieve the required strength and accuracy. Internal ribbing and careful wall thickness optimization meant the case was actually stronger than a conventional aluminum unit despite being lighter. The transaxle also incorporated the center and rear differentials for the all-wheel drive system, adding another layer of complexity. The entire unit was a masterpiece of packaging, fitting into a space barely larger than a conventional two-wheel drive transaxle. Tech blueprint for future 911s. Looking back, the 959 reads like a preview of the next 30 years of 911 development. Nearly every major innovation on the car eventually made its way to regular production Porsches. The water-cooled heads previewed the move to full water cooling in the 996 generation. The all-wheel drive system became a defining feature of turbo models. The use of composite materials expanded throughout the range. The active aerodynamics in the form of automatically deploying spoilers became standard on performance models. The tire pressure monitoring system is now on every Porsche sold. The sequential turbo technology evolved into today's variable geometry turbos. Even the idea of driver-selectable performance modes, revolutionary in 1986, is now expected on any sports car. The 959 proved that customers would pay for advanced technology if it delivered real performance benefits. It showed that a supercar could be both cutting-edge and reliable. Most importantly, it demonstrated Porsche's engineering philosophy. Develop technology in limited production models, perfect it, then cascade it down to volume production. The 959 wasn't just a 1980s supercar, it was a time machine showing us the future of performance cars. Every modern 911 owes something to the brave engineering decisions made for the 959. That's all for today, folks. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button so you don't miss the next one. See you there.